Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check them out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
A clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
Welcome back to Twisted Tales, folks. So my next tale here, I got another little viewer request for you. Now, it's kind of funny how this came about, because I was actually bullshitting with a trucker at work, and he's actually from back home in Newfoundland. So he told me about a murder that happened back in 1979. So it's kind of funny how we get into it, because he asked me for a pen, and he's like, "Oh, this pen's pretty cool." I was like, "Yeah, keep it. They write really well, because I write shit down every now and again." He's like, "Oh, do you write?" And I was like, "No, I just do podcasts for people." So he's like, "Oh, really cool." So we got into it and mentioned like the serial killer, missing person stuff, and he kind of got an idea in his head about a murder that happened back in Kingsman Cove, Newfoundland. So Kingsman Cove is actually close to the areas of Fremuse, Newfoundland, and Riverhead, Newfoundland area. Now, it's a little story about an axe murder, so I'll fire this off. Now, it involves a family, the Hagen family. So Anne-Marie Hagen was 19 years old at the time. She was a nursing student who had been home during the summer holidays. Now, Anne-Marie was born October 9th, 1959, and she was born to Thomas and Rita Hagman of Kingsman Cove, Newfoundland. Her father was a fisherman, and the mother, Rita, was a housewife. Now, her house was filled with love, respect, like a normal household should be. And education was very important in that family, and pretty much why she went to nursing school and whatnot. So Kingsman Cove was home to about 21 families around that time. And Kingsman it's a great little place. Like, everybody was friendly, easygoing, and the only personal challenges that Anne-Marie faced was like a fight or two with her boyfriend at the time. And it's just a quiet little spot. Like, people ate fish on Fridays, they caught up on TV on the 2 channels that they had, and like, nobody in town overly had experiences with death or violence. But next door to the Hagens lived a man who was left with 4 sons and 1 daughter after their mom died during childbirth. Now, the children lived mostly in an orphanage, and when Christmas and Thanksgiving rolled around, they'd actually visit their father's home. Now, Rita was awesome. Like, she would feed these kids on occasion, wash their hair, just little things like that. Just being an awesome woman, and very neighborly. And one of the sons, named Ron Ryan, he came to live with his father when Ron was a little bit older. Now, Ron, like anybody, had their struggles. He was hospitalized here and there with mental health issues, and like we all did, we had minor run-ins with the local police. So he also walked around town with a knife on his belt, and he didn't really try to hide it. So the Hagen family knew this guy like most of their lives, because he stayed over his dad's over the years, and he visited often. They just, see each other and like, "Hey, what's up," kind of shit. Now, August 12th, 1979, Anne-Marie was home after she completed her first year of the nursing school. So the family gathered around with intentions to attend a garden party. Now, everybody's laughing and carrying on, and it's about 1:30 in the middle of the afternoon. Now, Anne-Marie Hagen recalls, out of nowhere, Ron appears at the door and swings an axe at her father, and it's stuck right into her father Thomas's back. Rita, the mother, climbed out of a window and headed up onto the rooftop. Everything went into fucking mayhem. Anne-Marie tried to protect her family, Tom staggered into the nearby living room just to lure Ron away from the family, and he was also warding off blows with the axe that were raining down upon him. And just by the shock and violence of the whole ordeal, nobody expected this. And Thomas received 16 axe cuts in total. Several were to his head, neck, and face. But Anne-Marie tried to get him away from her dad, but he turned around and swung an axe into her arm, and he returned attacking her dad. So Anne-Marie spun into action pretty quickly. She tried to save her father's life with her newly trained medical skills from school, but it was too much. It was hopeless. He passed away. And as they waited on help, the family kind of pondered on something that the mother said. She said, quote, "Poor Ronnie, he was somebody's child." And I'm not sure if she was grief-stricken or in shock when she said this to him. Because it was very disturbing and an awful thing to witness. There's definitely a little bit of shock going on. Now, as Ron left the scene of the crime, he walked through Kingsman with a bloody axe in his hand. So, that had to be a sight to see. Just a normal day around town, and then you see a guy covered in blood carrying an axe. Ron actually passed a group of children who were playing. He walked into a coffee shop, sat down, lit a smoke, and started to read an encyclopedia. When police arrived, he told them that he heard the voice of his dead mother telling him to kill his father, and he rambled on to them just a bit. He also mentioned that Thomas and Rita Hagen were his only friends. So it became clear to RCMP that Ron had schizophrenia. So, after all this, Ron was charged with the murder of Tom, but because of his mental illness, Ron was found not criminally responsible for Tom's murder. And Ron was actually placed at a forensic psychiatric hospital. Anne-Marie was totally upset over the years. She didn't know what to think. She claimed she was often filled with despair, sadness, and anger. And she felt, in the long run, that the longer Ron was locked away, the greater the value was for her father's life. Years passed, and then on June 7th, 1996, Ron is deemed ready for release. And Hagen, she didn't know how to take this, so she tried to stop this process and engaged to the local police and politicians during a comprehensive campaign. So she ends up sitting down with her sisters and mother at a table, just, ready to use all the power and knowledge against the man who killed her dad. So Ron walks in, Anne-Marie's mother greets him, she shakes his hand, and Ron apologizes for killing Thomas, telling him about how he heard his mom's voice in his head, and that all this has took a toll on him and them. And it was just a rough go because he was only 4 years old when she died. Anne-Marie and Ron connected throughout the meeting. And she kind of learned of him as a human being, and they both learned about each other, and all of the terrible shit that they both suffered and endured over the years. So that face-to-face meeting lasted about an hour and 40 minutes. 16 years and 10 months full of misery was wiped away the same day, she said. Ron cried and took full blame. The two hugged it out, and Anne-Marie told him that she forgave him. And she remembers her words to him. Quote, "Blame is too strong a word." And she mentioned that she never imagined doing this. She'd finally set herself free, being able to let go of all her emotions, and all the numbness was gone. Now, Ron, now 59 years old, he's actually pulling his weight, working a job. And the last that was heard of him, he was working on a university degree. They still see each other now and again, and they wave or nod to one another. That would be a hard thing to do, to forgive a killer. But stranger things happen in life or death, and there's no judgment on that. So, I just mean it was an awful thing that happened, and whatever way works for them to find peace, have at her, guys. But I don't know, that's a hard pill to swallow, so I'm not sure how I would feel about that if that happened, or any of you guys, but, it's pretty twisted, and this is what I cover, twisted fucking tales, so. And June 2002, Anne-Marie actually became a motivational speaker. So she stated that before she forgave her dad's killer, she had zero compassion for people. Now she sees everything different, seeing people as somebody's child. She mentioned that forgiveness is not permission that you agree with what the offender has done, or that they had a right to do what they did, and that forgiveness cannot be conditional on remorse, because that would mean that we can only forgive those who are sorry. So she's been on a long journey on this since her dad's murder. She's learned to let go and learn that murder cannot destroy hope, faith, or love. It just seems to me that, this horrific crime, since it shook down, there is time to dwell on negative things, everything else, and over time, if you dwell on that, that shit will eat you up inside. And I know it's a tragedy that he was killed. It sucks. But there was also a guy that was undiagnosed with his illness. And lives were changed drastically with this whole measure. But, in the end, everything played out like it should. Now, Anne-Marie later in the years led her motivational speeches, and found a new way of living. And this got into the hearts of everyone that she talked to. So, over time, she was actually doing an interview with CBC News for a show called Out in the Open. So once she figured that out, got the whole show done, she left the studio. RCMP called her on her phone to let her know that her house and business caught fire and nothing was left. Now, losing her home meant losing her possessions. She actually lost the belt and socks that her dad was wearing the day he was murdered. And the business portion was gone as well, and that was actually a bed and breakfast. Hagen now lives in an apartment in St. John's, Newfoundland. And every so often, she said, life kicks you really hard in the bum. She mentioned one of the greatest challenges for us human beings is what kind of person do we become as a result of what comes to us. And that's what she said. So she's a very humble woman. She's been through a lot of tragedy, and she overcame. And that's all I got, folks. I hope that was a nice little tale for you. And I got a whole bunch more coming. So, thanks for tuning back in. Much love, guys. Stay safe, folks.
Twisted Tales.